Here's the reality. Most baseball facility, softball facility, strength gyms, owners that I talk to are working their tail off and they're still not growing the way they want to. And the frustrating part is it's usually not a coaching problem, it's a business problem, and nobody showed them how to fix it. So today I'm gonna walk you through exactly what the facilities that are scaling right now have in common. And there's really 5 main things. And honestly, if you're not doing these things, it doesn't matter how good your coaching is, you're not gonna scale. But I'll tell you this, if you're not looking to hear some perspective on thoughtfully moving forward in your business and you're okay with just doing what you've been doing, that's okay. This video is probably not for you. You can X out of it right now. If you don't know who I am, I'm Dave Bartek. I've built and scaled Athletic Baseball, our 10,000 square foot facility in Atlanta, Georgia, which is now a 7-figure operation. And I've been in the trenches doing this thing for the past 10 years, actually traveling the road from having a corporate career to grinding as a coach and now scaling a training facility profitably. And now I work with facility owners just like you one-on-one to help them build real businesses. We create real systems that build true revenue, maximize profitability, and actually create an opportunity for you to build a wealthy career in owning and operating your facility. Let's get into this thing. If you own and operate a baseball training facility and you're somewhere in between just surviving and where you actually want to be, then this is for you. Maybe you're doing okay, you've got athletes coming in, you're keeping the lights on. You feel like, you're just kind of winging it though, month to month. There's no real plan, the revenue's inconsistent. You're not really sure what's working and what's not working, or who knows, maybe you're watching this and you're doing pretty damn well for yourself, but maybe you've hit a ceiling and you're not sure how to break through it, and you're kind of fighting that inner battle of what to do next. Either way, what I'm about to talk about here today applies. There's really 5 main things that the scaling facilities are putting into practice. And maybe you're doing a couple of these things well, maybe you're doing them all well, maybe you're not doing any of them. The first non-negotiable that scaling facility owners are taking advantage of right now is just the opportunity to be brutally honest with themselves about where they're at. Most owners are not doing this. Just being brutally honest about where you're at without any emotion. And honestly, it took me a long time to be able to do this myself. I was super hard on myself, so there were times when I knew our facility wasn't doing as well as maybe it should have been. But for me, it was more of a, hey, I'm gonna beat myself up. I'm gonna, place deadlines on myself and make it tougher on myself to do this. But the reality is you've got to be brutally honest, and you have to have some perspective, and you've got to take the emotion out of where you are right now. But when I say being brutally honest with yourself, I'm talking about sitting down and looking at your real numbers and what did you bring in last month? What did you keep? What's your profit margin? What's your capacity? How many athletes do you have training right now? How many do you think you can actually serve? When I started actually getting serious about building Athletic as a business, I had to do this exercise with myself and with my team and my business partner. And a lot of times this was very uncomfortable. And to be honest with you, when you write down some of these numbers and you put them on paper and you start talking about them with your team, it can put you in a depressing spot. It can kind of get you going down that road of like, damn man, can I really do this or not? A lot of owners have a rough idea in their head like, hey, we're doing pretty good this month, or we're not doing as well that month, or hey, we need to make some money now. But they don't really have a clear picture of what they're doing right now and what that starts to look like over time. When you stack up week after week and month after month, what does that actually look like? And until you're super honest with yourself about where you're at and what got you there, you're not really going to be able to do anything. So step 1 is super simple. Pull your numbers, revenue, profit, capacity, write it down. That's your point A. That's where you're at right now. You have to do that before you do anything else. Once you figured out where you're at, where your point A is, then you need to know exactly where you want to go, right? Where is the point B destination that you're trying to get to? And I'm not talking about vague stuff like, I want to grow, I want our facility to scale, I want to be rich as fuck. That's one I hear all the time. Like, I want to be rich as fuck, bro. And it's like, dude, okay, cool, but that's not a real number. I don't know what that means. Rich as fuck to me might mean something different than rich as fuck to you. What is the timeline for getting to where you want to get to? Are you trying to get to 10K a month? Are you at 10K a month? Do you want to get to 20K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month? Is that revenue? Is that profit? Are you at 10% profit, 20% profit, 30% profit? Is that before you pay yourself, after you pay yourself? These are all things that you're going to need to pay attention to. How long is it going to take you to get where you want to go? Is that 12 months? Is that 18 months? Is that 3 years? Do you want to open a second location, a third location, a fourth location? Do you want to sell your business? I mean, these are all questions that people don't know to ask themselves in the beginning because they're so focused on what's right in front of their nose and only looking at top line revenue. So you have to pick something specific. And the reason this matters so much is because when you have vague goals and a vague plan, you're going to get vague results. So just, I kind of want to get rich and I kind of know what I'm doing. I don't really know what tomorrow looks like. Then there's no way you're going to actually get to where you want to get to. So again, when you have a real target in mind, you can actually figure out what it's going to take for you to get there. That's your point B. And right now, you need both point A and point B on paper before you do anything else. Once you've truly identified where you want to go and where that point B is, that's where you can actually start to reverse engineer a path from point A to point B. And this is where your operation starts to feel a little bit more like a business, like an actual business. And once you know where you are, where you want to go, and you start working backwards and what has to be true at point B that isn't true right now at point A, how many athletes do you have? At what price point? What offers? What's the marketing that's going on? When you start to ask these questions, you can dive in a little bit deeper to all this stuff. And let me give you an example. Say you're at $8,000 a month right now and you want to get to $15,000. And we're talking about top line revenue right here, not necessarily profit. So this is before any expenses, before any payroll, before you paid yourself. This is just flat out how much money is coming through your payment processing account each month. To figure this out, you don't just say, well, I need more athletes. You're going to have to ask yourself, okay, what's the average revenue per athlete? And if that's $200 a month, that means you need 40 athletes at an average of $200 a month to get you to your $8,000. And if you're currently there right now, then you should know that because you know how many guys you're training and hopefully you're tracking some of that. We'll get into that later. If you want to get to 15,000, well, then you plug in your calculator and you figure out that you're going to need 35 more athletes to get to a total of 75 athletes at $200 a month to get there. How long is that going to take? What's the conversion rate there from when a guy reaches out to you to when he's enrolled? How many inquiries do you need? And where are those coming from? Can I generate those on my own? Do I need more marketing? Can I increase my overall price and hopefully make that equation a little bit easier on myself? When you start to ask some of these questions, you start to see that, well, I just need more athletes is not a plan. The plan is how many do you need? How long is it going to take to acquire them? What's the cost to acquire them? And so on and so forth until you actually reverse engineer that path all the way back from where you want to go to where you're at right now. And most owners skip this entirely and they just try stuff. They post on Instagram, they'll run a promo, they do a camp, they hope word spreads. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it's not going to compound into anything meaningful because it's too shallow. So the reverse engineering part is what separates facilities from actually getting lucky and doing okay to the ones that consistently scale and know exactly how they're doing it. And to be honest, when you start doing this effectively, you start figuring out bits and pieces for yourself and it makes you feel really good. It makes you feel like you have the answers to your own problems. And I think it's fair to point out that once you take a good look in the mirror at these first three, like where you're at right now and where you want to go and reverse engineering a path back, we also have to consider, are your offers worth scaling? And this one gets overlooked a lot. And in other words, do you even have an offer that has the capability of scaling? And I'm talking about profitably, of course. I'm not just talking about revenue going up. You can have a great marketing strategy. You can have a great sales process, But if your offer isn't structured right for your market, you're going to stall out. And what do I mean when I say offer? What I'm talking about when I say offer is, what are you actually selling? Is it an individual lesson? Is it a membership plan? Is it a training program with a clear outcome? These are all not the same thing. They can't be treated the same. And some of them are a lot harder to scale than others. And this has been proven in this industry. The facilities I see growing are usually built around offers that have recurring revenue, clear outcomes that that athletes actually want, athlete commitment, simplicity of delivery, that's a big one, and they're priced in a way that reflects the value that they're going to deliver, not just whatever they think they should charge. And on the pricing topic, if your pricing makes you nervous to say out loud, then that's worth paying attention to, whether it's too high or too low. That might be a sign that you haven't fully bought into the value of what you're delivering yet. And I'm not going to go super deep into offer design in this video. That's a whole separate topic. But the short version is, make sure you're actually selling what works for your business model, not just a service just because. And this is a big piece of what we help our partner facilities with. Oftentimes, it's like the first thing we dive into. The last non-negotiable, and certainly not the least, in fact, it's probably the biggest game changer for people who are willing to take the advice. You've got to be willing to invest in marketing, and specifically paid advertising. And I'm talking about actually invest. And this is where I'm going to lose some people here, and that's okay. Some facility owners are going to be too cheap. Sorry to offend anyone, but you're going to be too cheap to actually wrap your head around what we're talking about here. Running a successful training facility in 2026, and honestly, it's been like this for the past 4 or 5 years, hoping referrals and word of mouth are going to carry you. I guess that's a strategy, but really it's a survival strategy. It's not a growth strategy. And what you're doing is you're putting your whole business at the mercy of hoping other people tell other people about what you've got going on. Here's the hard part though, right? You spent so much time getting to where you're at now, you're point A. And you're saying, well, Dave, like that's how I got here. Word of mouth, referrals, personal interaction with my players and parents, and text messages and all this stuff. And that's where you're at. Great, but I think it's worth noting that why it's so important to figure out where you want to go is when you start to reverse engineer that path back to where you're at right now, you can easily say, okay, is marketing and specifically paid advertising something that's going to help me get there? And for most facilities, this is a yes, unless you're just brand new and starting out. And even then, I would argue it's still important. Without this, you are treating marketing as an afterthought. And we all know that marketing is what fills our businesses. Now, investing in marketing and paid advertising doesn't just mean throwing money at ads. In fact, you can get yourself in trouble and waste a lot of money really fast doing that. I've done it before. You have to have a system. You have to have a way to generate attention. You have to be able to turn that attention into incoming inquiries. And then you have to turn those inquiries into paid converted sales money in the bank. And when you have that system dialed, you can scale it. When you don't, you're just guessing. So we've built out a very calculated system in our business. We call it the Athlete Acquisition Framework, and we use it with all of our training programs that we run. It allows us to track exactly how much we're spending on overall advertising, how much it costs to acquire leads, how much it costs to acquire clients, and more importantly, it becomes a calculator for us being able to reverse engineer getting to where we want to go year after year. That's our point B. If you want to learn a little bit more about the Athlete Acquisition Framework, there's a link in the description below that talks about how we go about all this and whether or not the system is actually a fit for what you're doing in your facility. But here's the thing I want to address directly, because I see it all the time. A lot of facility owners have really good reasons why they're not to their goal yet, right? It could be the market, it could be the competition, the economy, COVID killed their momentum, parents are flaky, athletes aren't committed, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that some of this stuff isn't real. I'm not dismissing it. We've certainly been in this situation. We're not exempt from any of these things. And I help my team daily on getting past a lot of these issues. But I've talked to enough facility owners to know that the ones that are actually doing well and scaling, they're not in better markets and they're not in favorable situations. They just stop explaining why things are hard and they've started building systems to deal with it. And when you do that, you can stay ahead of these things. And I say this all the time, you can actually be proactive instead of reactive. And I say this all the time as well. It's kind of become me and my team's motto. Excuses don't scale, emotion doesn't scale, systems scale. And systems is a word being thrown around a lot today, and you truly need them. The best thing I ever did was get honest with myself about what was actually holding our business back, and a lot of it was me. Lack of systems, bad pricing decisions, my offer structure wasn't there, no marketing system at all, so just hoping things would work and not really having an idea. And once I got honest about some of this stuff and took some of the emotion out of it and stopped being so hard on myself, fixing some of these things became much easier and a hell of a lot less stressful. And that's the whole point. You didn't start your business just to be stressed out all the time. You didn't start your business to be on a hamster wheel and hoping for a good month here and there. You started it because you wanted to grow. You started your business because you wanted to make some money. You started your business because it was probably more fun than what you were doing before, right? And if you've made it this far, you're probably the kind of facility owner who's actually serious about this stuff. And if that's the case, I want to connect with you. The work I do with our partners is not a course. It's not a mastermind where you sit in a room with 50 other people and get some arbitrary bullshit advice. It's direct one-on-one work to build out a specific plan for you to get from point A to point B, whatever that looks like, and to actually be able to execute it. If I'm being honest, I'm pretty selective about who I work with because the people I want to work with are serious facility owners. They're not looking for a shortcut. They want to build something real, and honestly, because I don't have a whole lot of time to work with people that are going to suck up a lot of my time and be in need of hand-holding. Again, I'm running my own facility. However, like I said, if you are serious about looking to grow together and learn together and take some of this stuff and implement it and run with it in your business, then I'm right there for you. And if that's you, there's a link below in the description. I highly suggest clicking on it and search around on the page there. You'll find 4 or 5 links where you can book a strategy call with us. And if you're serious about this thing and not just looking for free advice and some kind of magical shortcut that does not exist, but rather someone who can stand by you during this process and actually attack the challenges that are gonna pop up, and I know they're gonna pop up because I've seen them myself, then we'll get on a call. I'll give you an honest read on where you're at in your business and what it's gonna take to get to the next level. There's no pressure, there's no pitch. Just 2 facility owners figuring out, hey, what does this path look like? If it's not a good fit, then if nothing else, you've had a good conversation and a little bit of clarity on your business. There's a link below. Let's get to work. If this was helpful, drop a comment. I'd love to know where you're at in your business and what's on your mind. Subscribe if you want more of this. Go check out some of our other content on my channel. I put out content specifically for sports training facility owners who are trying to build real businesses, not just get through the week. I'll see you on the next one.